Lawmakers grilling CDC Director Rochelle Walensky yesterday for the last time before she steps down, demanding answers on her agency's actions during the pandemic. Joining me now is Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko. She's a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Congresswoman, you questioned Walensky yesterday as well. What did you learn?
Well, we learned that the CDC kept giving conflicting information, and as we saw in that exchange, they also coordinated through the FBI to censor people that had opposing views, and so it's just wrong. Now, my questions that I asked were specifically related to the closeness of communications between the CDC Director Walensky and the American Federation of Teachers Union President Randi Weingartner. And so my line of questioning was, did you have both her personal and official cell phone numbers? Have you texted with each other? Did you delete any of the texts? Because the school closings were wrong. It hurt children, and the CDC listened too much to the teachers union instead of science.
Well, and that started, we should say, to be clear, when the pandemic started, that was in 2020. But, I mean, do you feel that there was an improper relationship and proper communications between Ms. Walensky and Randi Weingarten? And if so, what do you do about that if that turns out to be true?
Well, I do think it was very uncommon. Some of the people within the CDC said it was very uncommon for the CDC to rely so much on a teachers union that doesn't have scientific data. And so some of the language that the American Federation of Teachers submitted to the CDC was included verbatim in the school guidance from the CDC. And that's why I asked the questions. It was like, how much were you communicating with the American Federation of Teachers instead of looking at your own data? The CDC had their own data that said that children are at a low risk of being hospitalized from COVID-19. And also there was studies out there already that said children had low transmission rates to adults, to teachers. And so other countries did not close down their schools, and they were fine. And so we're just worried that in the future, when a pandemic comes along again, that we don't do what some of the mistakes that have been done by the CDC, which was giving conflicting information. One day you had to wear a mask, another day don't wear a mask, and one day saying anybody who's vaccinated won't be hospitalized, but then of course they were. It really deteriorates the reputation of the CDC, and that's really unfortunate for the American people.
And maybe led to some unwanted deaths in the country. That's been alleged as well because of frankly, misinformation, disinformation, if you want, that came from the CDC during that very dark time in our nation. Congressman, I want to move on. The House is supposed to vote on your bill. It's called Save Our Stoves Act. That's supposed to be this week. It hit a snag last week on a rules vote. It looks like some Republicans actually had an issue with this. What's going on?
Yeah, Republicans didn't have an issue with my bill. They held up the rule last week for a different reason. They had a beef with Kevin McCarthy. But my bill will be voted on the floor today, Save Our Gas Stoves Act, and I expect it will pass with all Republicans in support, and probably 29 Democrats will also support it. And it's just common sense. Unfortunately, the Department of Energy under the Biden administration is going after gas stoves. With all the crises that are going on in our country, the border wide open, crime, fentanyl deaths, they choose to pick on gas stoves. Doesn't make any sense to me. So we're fighting back. I'm fighting back. I'm like, no, don't take away popular gas stoves from people. Even the Department of Energy's own report on their test that they did on gas stoves with their proposed rules says 96% of the market share of gas cooktops would not qualify under their new proposed rules. And so it's effectively a ban on gas stoves that are popular with people.
Yeah, and
Why are they doing that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
And you're right. That setback that was I want to be clear here was Matt Gaetz, Ralph Norman, Dan Bishop, Chip Roy, but that was their frustration with Kevin McCarthy. So I do want to make sure that we point that out. Obviously, because so we'll see how that bill goes today for you, Congresswoman. I'm going to bring in Adam Johnson for a question here.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl. Congresswoman. Here in New York City, the City Council just passed a law about 6 weeks ago that as of 2025, all new buildings will have to have electric stoves. They've effectively banned gas stoves. Would your bill, if it's successful as a federal bill, supersede what a city or state can mandate?
What my bill does is say the Department of Energy can't impose their new proposed rules. So I don't think it would overrule what New York or other cities are doing, unfortunately. It would just prevent the Department of Energy from doing their new rule, which would have an energy efficiency standard that would effectively ban the majority of currently existing models of gas stoves.
All right. Well, Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, thank you very much for joining us, and keep us posted on your bill.
I will. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.